What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Panthers Advice. Today, man, football is back. We've got a lot to talk about just from the first half alone. We'll talk about the full game tomorrow. Stay tuned for that video. But just in the first half, man, we had some big plays from the starting team. But before we get to that, we got to talk about Corey Thornton. All right, DB, undrafted rookie, if I'm not mistaken, just like Jalen Coker last year. Like this on the broadcast, what he lacks for in speed, he makes up for in technique. Let me say that again. What he lacks in speed, he makes up for in technique. And if you're not familiar with him, like, oh, I don't know if I remember him or not. When T-Mac had that one-handed catch, right? That's who was on him. Now you might be like, okay, are we really going to say that? That was great defense. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes great defense can still get beat by better offense, especially with a guy like T-Mac. Corey Thornton was all over that. T-Mac just somehow brought that in. That was him, right? So perfect defense. I can't say perfect, right? Because T-Mac caught it, but you get where I'm going. This is who he is. He's an undrafted rookie. Remember, T-Mac, Nola, Tetairoa, McMillan, he was what? The number 8 overall pick? Thornton is an undrafted rookie. So stay tuned for a Corey Thornton video, because that will be dropping later this week. Stay tuned for that. And then there's Jimmy Horn. Jimmy Horn looks to be legit. He's fast. He's quick. I can't wait to see how they implement to this offense. He didn't start first team. You had, if I'm not mistaken, you had Thielen, Legette, and McMillan out there. Horn got a little bit of reps, but not a ton with the first team. But you know he will, right? So with all that being said, let's jump into some highlights, all right? And then we'll talk a little bit more after this. So as we jump to the highlights, all right, first up is this right here. Bryce Young to T-Mac. Let's break this one down, man. I'm not going to lie. When I saw this on the broadcast as far as the formation, okay, and I saw the Browns are playing, I'm like, okay, this one's going to T-Mac. Why do I say that? Browns essentially overloading this right side, as you see right here. Okay, single high safety. He's playing that left hash. No help over here. No help, right? And then when the ball is snapped, take a look right here. Bryce Young instantly. Look where his hips are. You see they're pointed right towards T-Mac. And if you go back here, watch T-Mac's release right here, a little slow, and then bang, he's taken off, gets on top of the DB, and then bang, he's going to bring it down. Now, something to talk about right here. T-Mac is never going to have a ton of separation. And he doesn't need to with his catch radius, right? And the way he can track the ball, get at the high point, so on and so forth. So T-Mac on a fade route, on a go route, corner route potentially, post route I think he'll have more separation. But don't expect a ton because he doesn't need to, all right? He doesn't need to because, bang, he's going to bring the thing in easily like this. And take a look right here. He doesn't bring his hands up, all right, until the ball is right there, and that ball is his. Something else I want to touch on real quick, if you're watching the broadcast, it seemed like Steve Smith, man, was just critiquing the heck, all right, out of T-Mac. I don't know why. It seemed like when we talked about Legette, which we'll get to in a second, all right, he was hyping him up. Then there was Jimmy Horn. You know, he was hyping him up. Jalen Coker, because he did that video on Jalen Coker was special, and the Panthers drafted him. But it seemed like with T-Mac, Steve Smith was just critiquing, you know, his route, his this. I'm like, it's his first game, man. Like, give him a break. Because, you know, the Panthers, they fumbled the punt return, and Steve Smith is like, okay, you know, and the bang, under the lights, it's just different. You got to adjust. But it seemed like he wasn't giving that same kind of slack towards T-Mac. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it. Let me know if you watched the game, you heard Steve Smith say something. But let's keep it going. Next play we're going to look at right here. It's 3rd and goal. Look at Bryce Young. Going from his left to his right here. Come on, man. Stop playing with this dude. Now, here's what we have to talk about in this right here. When it came to Bryce Young making plays like this, you saw it consistently the last 2 to 3 weeks. It started about, what, week? Don't quote me on this, but what, week 9, week 10-ish? Okay, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, you saw this from Bryce Young. But you're like, will this carry over? And for a couple of reasons, right? We didn't really know what to expect from Bryce Young. And 2, he was going against the Falcons defense, which, believe it or not, had less sacks than the Panthers, if I'm not mistaken. Less sacks than the Panthers did. That's why they drafted Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. But back to Bryce Young. So a lot of people were like, okay, will this carry over? This channel didn't worry about that, but there was a lot of people who were like skeptic given how Bryce Young did his first 2 years starting. And you got this right here. Let's pause it right here. 2 things I want to look at right here. 1, Bryce Young directing traffic. 2, the guy 2.5 times the size of Bryce Young coming right at him. And you know he wants to hit Bryce Young. You know he wants to. It's 3rd and goal. And look at Bryce Young right here. making plays to Jalen Coker. And as we take a look at it from this angle right here, you know he wants to hit Bryce Young. But you see right here, he's directing traffic. Also, we got a face mask right there. I guess we're not going to call, but, you know, doesn't really matter too much because the Panthers score. Jalen Coker, nice touchdown right there. The other thing I want to touch on is this right here. Bryce Young drifting to his right, throwing across his body to the left. We've seen him do this, right? This isn't new. We've seen him do this in Carolina the last 2 years. For the first year and a half when he did this in Carolina, I'm like, I don't know what to expect, right? I'm like, you know, kind of grabbing the seat type thing, right? But when he was in Bama, he did this consistently. But then he came to Carolina, you didn't see it. And now you're seeing Bama Bryce Young. He's playing more free. He's playing more open, as you see right here. I mean, come on, man. Jalen Coker obviously making a great catch too. All right, look at this one more time before we move on real quick. Bryce Young drifting to his right, throwing across his body, and you see he's kind of bouncing back so he doesn't get hit right there, right? I mean, those 3 things alone, directing traffic, I guess 4, directing traffic, throwing across his body, drifting to the right, and bouncing back, and he made on third. Stop playing with this man, all right? And then right here, we got Jalen Coker. You know, if you've been watching my channel the last few weeks, I've been hyping him up, and this is why right here. Now, this play didn't count, unfortunately. It's 3rd and 6. I believe the Browns jumped off sides right here. Bryce Young got a free play, but then they called hands to the face or face mask on the Panthers, one of the linemen, right? So it didn't count. Come on, man. Jalen Coker right here. I think Andy Dalton threw this one, if I'm not mistaken, all right? And then we got Legette right here, giving that DB that 2-3-4 piece. The only reason this scared me, okay, let's talk about it real quick. Dan Morgan speaks to the reporters at the Combine. On Tuesday, he was asked for an update on Legette, who hinted at needing wrist surgery during the season. Morgan said, nothing wrong with the wrist. Our doctors and his side evaluated that and feel like surgery wasn't needed. I think it needs an offseason just to kind of heal up a little bit from the wrist perspective. From the foot perspective, he was having some discomfort in his foot pretty much all season. So we decided to do a little procedure on that. So as you can see right here, he didn't do any surgery on his wrist. So it kind of scared me a little bit when he's sitting there punching on that 2-3-4 piece, whatever, hitting that helmet, right? Because one bad move with that wrist, and who knows what's going to happen there, right? So that scared me a little bit. But overall, all right, overall, thoughts on the Panthers starting offense. It looks to be legit. Legette's coming out there. He's hungry, right? Punching aside, this dude is hungry. Coker's doing Coker things. Jimmy Horn looks to be like the real deal. Same thing with Tetairoa McMillan. Didn't get a ton of Adam Thielen, but that's okay because we have all these receivers. Like I said before, Adam Thielen might match his numbers because teams are going to be worried about Coker on the outside, Tetairoa on the outside, Jimmy Horn in the middle, Legette. I mean, the list goes on and on. You got Hunter Renfrow potentially on the rust. I mean, this is crazy. Chuba Hubbard almost broke off, what, the first or second play too? The team looks to be legit. Bryce Young looks confident. He looks happy. The defense, you know, I'm a little bit mixed on, right? We let Shedeur scramble a little bit too much. Kind of reminds me when the Panthers played the Bears against Tyson Bagent, right? And consistently he kept rolling out to the right side, right? So that bothered me a little bit. Secondary, Bartholomew, guy kind of been hyping up. He's been struggling. Nick Scott's been struggling too, so we'll have to go back, look at the film later this week, kind of figure out, okay, is it zone? Is it man for Bartholomew? Why is Nick Scott struggling? All right, is it him or the DBs basically getting beat underneath, and Nick Scott has to make the tackle, so stay tuned for that. Then I saw Nick Shorten play hungry. Christian Roseman a couple tackles. Trevin Wallace, like I did my video about a month ago, he's going to be different this year. He's playing hungry. Overall, the team impressed me, especially offensively. Defensively, well, we'll see what happens, right? So stay tuned. More content. A lot more content coming soon. Maybe another one tonight. We'll see, all right? Panthers Vices. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.